Traveling to Consciousness, exploring spiritual journeys to find answers in uncertainty.
What is up, conscious monkeys? Welcome back to another episode of Traveling to Consciousness. As always, I'm your host, Clayton, and in today's podcast episode, we have a catch up with Clayton episode, and it's actually a very, very energizing one. We got a big announcement today, huge announcement that I've only told to close family and friends, and I'm excited to share it with you guys. I haven't even announced it on my Instagram, my TikTok, my X account, anything. So you guys are getting first-hand knowledge. So that's the beauty of you guys listening to this, because this, honestly, the podcast is my baby. If there was only one I could have, it would be the podcast. And I get so many more views on everything else, but I'll be honest with you. If there's one thing that I would hope I aspire to grow and to be bigger, it would be this. If I could trade all my viewers, all the views and followers on those accounts and shift them all to the podcast, I'd do that in a heartbeat. 100%. But with that being said, I guess that's a little insight into me. But with that being said, we are on to the catch up with Clayton. What's been going on in Clayton Kateri's life? Again, we'll get to that big announcement. But if you have been following me on Instagram, you do know that I just got back from LA. I was in LA visiting friends, family. Incredible time. Always enjoy going to Southern California. And honestly, I thought LA was a little bit better than what I was expecting. Maybe we didn't go to any of the bad areas, if you will, but it seemed to me like it's improving. And I hope that's true. I don't know if it is true, but I hope that that's true, because for all we know, everything needs a little bit of a polishing. It seems like, not to make it too political, but it seems like all of our politics, all of America is not going in the right direction. And, hence the reason for the creation of and me campaigning with the American Congress Party. So hopefully we can get everything back on track. But I mean, from what I saw, it seemed pretty solid. But maybe I only saw the good parts, or the parts that aren't completely bad. Another big thing that popped up for me, and actually it was just a few hours ago, is I made it back to Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So for those of you who don't know, I haven't really talked about it much. I have not been going to jiu-jitsu for maybe the last 4 months. I've been doing a lot of lifting. I've been lifting 6 to 7 times a week. And just jiu-jitsu, I haven't been getting around to it. And honestly, my neck's a little sore even. I'm thinking I have to go back to the chiropractor, so that might be in the near future. Shout out Dr. Dan. So that will have to probably be, I'm actually thinking right now I might need to make a appointment for that. Make sure you guys are seeing a chiropractor. Super underrated. Super underrated profession. Highly recommend it. But let's get on to some of the juicier stuff, because I know you guys like those little mini updates, but these last two things are pretty juicy. And the first one we're going to get into is actually a little heavy. And it's someone I sat down with a podcast, and we recorded on Thursday. I'm going to try to get it out by this Thursday, but don't hold me to it. We'll see how the week shapes out. I should have time. But her name is Max Lowen, Lowen. And I highly recommend that you look up another podcast that she has done to get more of her backstory. So she was on a couple other podcasts, most notably Rachel Fiore, Master of Self University. So that's a good one, I think, to check out. To get more of Max's background and like her history. Now, the reason I had her on my podcast is because she's actually a satanic ritual survivor, which means she was in essentially this cult that did very demonic things. Think about trauma, think about torture to the extreme. And in essence, the whole goal is to break the human spirit, to basically disconnect the body from the spirit. That's the best way. It's kind of how she phrased it, and that's the best way that I could possibly word it. So it's, I'm recommending other people's podcast with her, because in our podcast, we kind of just talk about a little bit more meta things, like a little bit more of a meta conversation of like what's the implication of these satanic cults and their impact on the world. So the reason I'm telling you to go listen to her on Rachel Fiore's Masters of Self, I'm sure you could find another one that she's been on. She's been on quite a few. But the reason I'm telling you to go listen to those is to know her past and her childhood, because we don't go too deep into it in our podcast. We more talk about the implications. So I think if you listen to her story, it's a good preface and a good pretext for our podcast that we'll be releasing in the near future, hopefully within the next week. So I do want to put that out there if you're interested. And again, I give you strong, be courageous. Be courageous, because there's a lot of very dark things that are discussed. And I do think that it's important to be aware that these things are occurring on our planet. People just want to tune it out and not look at it. And I think that's how these things fester and they get worse. So don't listen to it with kids. I'll tell you that much right now. Don't listen to any of her podcasts with kids. Listen it to for yourself and for you to know. So then after you listen to that, then you'll be prepared for whenever I put her on my podcast, because it's shocking stuff, man. It's really shocking stuff. But especially if we're talking about this spiritual war, we're talking about how you have to be balanced, how you have to be able to confront the dark. You have to know the levels at which the dark exists. So that was the second biggest announcement I had. Let's move on to the biggest announcement that I have. And now, guys and gals. Usually I say guys in a non-sexual orientation way. What you have to understand is I got invited, cordially invited, to accept an award from the Sri Lankan government. That's right. On behalf of myself and the American Congress Party, the Sri Lankan government invited myself to the Icon Awards at the end of this month. So that means on September 25th to the 30th, I will be going to Sri Lanka. I will be accepting an award that is to honor and to recognize the work that has been done by the American Congress Party, the work that has been done by myself, including the temple building, including obviously these podcasts, the YouTube video, the Instagram videos, the work in the community, speaking with people, connecting with people, and getting these ideas out there, because they see a bright future for the American Congress Party within American politics, and they want to honor that. They want to make it known. They want to get these ideas out there. And it's really quite amazing for so many reasons. I mean, it's very humbling, but at the deeper level, it's very energizing too. Because you do these things I do these things over and over again every single day, and you don't, the individual days, you don't see like big jumps, but then you have something like this where you realize that it's paying off. So they want to honor us for our social activism. They want to honor us for Amara as well, because they can see that that's going to be a big path forward too. They see the troubles that are going on in the social media space. So it's very powerful. And I'm going to be blessed. They want to have me on a panel even to discuss the future. They want me to discuss military, because I don't know how much you guys know. I've talked about it on the podcast. I used to work at General Atomics, which was a part of the DoD, creating military drones. So they want to have me on a drone panel to discuss the future of drones, discuss their impact on the world and how we can actually utilize those or not utilize them to be in a more safe and respectable place, so that we can protect the innocent people and not use them for harm or, let's say, evil. So I'm very, very excited for that. That'll be an exciting trip. It's very humbling. They're rolling out VIP treatment. They're giving us red carpet. They're going to put us up in a very beautiful 5-star hotel. And guys, I recommend you check it out. I mean, Sri Lanka looks like a very beautiful place to me. I had no idea. I've never seen a picture of it. I've heard about it, and there's a story that involves it in the Hindu scriptures. with Lord Rama. But other than that, I don't really know anything about Sri Lanka, and I had to start doing some research. I mean, especially if I'm going to be meeting and talking to the president of Sri Lanka, definitely need to be doing some research to understand a little bit more of their politics, how their government works, because I mean, I'll be honest, right? And at this point in time, I still need to do some research on that, research some of their culture, make sure you don't do anything offensive kind of deal. But I'm very excited. They sent a very beautiful invitation. This is going to be their second Icon Awards, which is also an amazing honor as well. I saw that they had a couple, I think movie stars and other political, like dignitaries. I believe that's how you use the word dignitaries. I don't know if that's how you use the word dignitaries. Dignitaries. I've heard it said before, but I don't know the actual definition of dignitaries. Let me see here. Dignitary, one who possesses exalted rank or holds a position of dignity or honor. Okay. Yeah, I guess foreign dignitaries, foreign governmental dignitaries is probably a more appropriate phrasing of that. So it's really, I mean, as cool as it is, I think it's really beautiful to see that it's not just, American governments that have these issues, or even the American people who are facing these issues. It's clearly, at least in the language I received, is that it's clearly a very widespread issue, like I guess worldwide issue. Are these issues that we're talking about with the clean food, clean air, clean water, because we live on such a small planet. If we live on such a small planet that all of these have such a quick and fast ripple effect. And so when we even add into the mix of this, the nuclear, nuclear weapons, nuclear facilities, we're all in trouble if that goes south. We are all very much in trouble very quickly. So I say all this that it's very motivating, because you do, and maybe this is like one of the part of the lessons that I could offer to anyone listening to this podcast, is you do the same thing over and over again almost every single day. I mean, there's some changes, you move a little bit, like it's not the exact same thing, but it's very repetitious. And when you get to a certain point and you have little micro achievements, or I guess in this case it's pretty macro, right? It's an international award for a political activity. It really makes it worth it. And it's kind of starting to settle in, or starting to hit me, if you will, because I think, there's a piece of me that doesn't usually step back and pat myself on the back, and I'm not trying to do that here. I'm just kind of soaking it in as I'm explaining this out loud, because I think a lot of it, this is me processing things live, because I will tell people about these things, but you don't really like sit and think with your thoughts about these things. Like, you'll tell people, they'll be interested, you talk back, make sure that they're interested, you have a cordial conversation. But whenever you're sitting here with just a microphone and a laptop, you can kind of ramble a little bit and kind of flush out new ideas and really feel the gravity of the situation, or feel the gravity of what you're articulating. And I find that this is one of those situations where, kind of getting a live recording of it truly resonating with me, of what, is going to unfold, or what is unfolding. I think it's going to be a very fascinating event. And I'm very excited. I'm very excited to even just get this opportunity and get this experience to meet with international dignitaries. So it'll be cool. It'll be very cool. And I truly hope that I can not only represent the American Congress Party, but even represent just the American people to the best of my ability. I think, the same way, I guess a part of me, and I'm, again, just thinking about this off the top of my head, I've never thought of this before, but the way that I suppose I don't want to say cast judgment, but we have a stereotype maybe, or like an idea of how people act or behave in a different country. If you're never truly like interacting with them, you don't really know for sure. So I don't know how many times these people have spoken with Americans. I'm sure maybe the I'm sure that the president and the prime minister, they've both, and I'm sure many other of their dignitaries, word of the day, I'm sure that they have had conversations with Americans. They probably know well better. But I think even just, I guess I want to make sure that I represent it to the best of the ability, all right? Best of my ability. Represent myself and then the American people and then American Congress Party. I hope I'm able to do that. I hope I'm able to, set forth a good example, a good impression of what Americans are like. Because I find that, majority, I think, of the people in the entire world are good people. But then when they get, into these positions of power, and maybe it's only what we see. Again, the news could be fooling all of us for all I know. But, when you get into these positions of power, just even being a good person. So hopefully we can pull that off. Hopefully, and I, this even comes back to maybe a meta theme of the podcast, which is just to be authentic. Be honest, be authentic, be real. Because it seems to me that that's missing so much in society, that anybody, any certain person who does those 3 things, they're going to stand out in the crowd. So simple, but yet it seems that our world and our especially political landscape has sided away from that, if you will. So yeah, I'm very honored. I'm excited. That's kind of my catch up with Clayton episode. Maybe one of the most exciting catch up with Clayton episodes to date, which I think is always good. It's definitely maybe the most exciting, but most eventful. So that'll be exciting. I'll give you guys another catch up whenever I get back from Sri Lanka. So that'll be cool. I'm sure I'll update you guys along the way. But in the event that you can't wait that long, then I guess I'll just have to update you whenever we see each other in the 6th dimension.